Hi, I'm Lisa Chastain, and welcome to the Real Money Podcast. Some of the most successful women in the world hate talking about money, and that's exactly why we're here. My mission is to remove fear around finances by creating a simple, effective way to manage your money and build the financial freedom you deserve. As a keynote speaker, best-selling author, and passionate coach, I will be sharing my insights on overcoming money challenges, coaching women live on air, and interviewing some of the most accomplished women to learn from their experiences. So, say goodbye to fear, say goodbye to budgeting woes, and welcome to Real Money. Hey, Real Money community, Lisa Chastain here with another powerful episode with a powerhouse of a woman here to share with you all the things about building success, wealth, and can I say ultimately building a life being happy. Lauri Kibby is someone that I adore. Fate brought us together, and you're going to hear a lot about her in our episode today. So I have a question for you. As my community, I want you to think about this today as we dig into this conversation. What if the greatest investment you'll ever make is in yourself? Today's guest is a powerhouse in every sense of the word. Lauri Kibby has built and led companies across industries. She's created wealth on her own terms, but the real story is the inner journey that changed everything for her. This episode is a wake-up call for the woman who is ready to stop playing small, claim her worth, and build real wealth from the inside out. Lauri's story is one of reinvention, intention, and what happens when you stop chasing success and start becoming it. Let's learn about Lauri. She's a serial entrepreneur, investor, philanthropist with an MBA from the Haas School of Business at UC Berkeley. She's co-founded industry-shaping ventures and navigated major changes in industries after 9/11. She's led major investments in real estate, having raised tens of millions of dollars and having done very large projects, one she's up to right now. And she's doing it all with power, peace, purpose, and a Porsche. Lauri, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Lisa. I love the introduction. It's great to see you again.
Yeah, so for our listener, Lauri's team found me, sent me an email. I'm very selective with the people that I interview on my show now because I'm really committed to education and bringing people on who are the experts in their fields, who set the standard in their field. And I know that my guests in my community will have so much to learn from you, not just in this episode, but for years to come, I hope. And I had the privilege of sitting next to you for a full day in Dallas, Texas for the Women's Wealth Symposium. I extended the invitation. You said yes. And I got to know you on a deeper level. And can I just say that I respect you so much. And I'm so grateful to know you.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, I'm impressed by what you're doing, and I so thank you for the invitation. It was great to actually be in a room with all these powerhouse women.
Yeah.
What was interesting about that event was how everyone comes at how they look at their wealth.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot about building careers and building your financial wealth. And in your introduction, which I think captures it so well, I'm really looking currently at what does it mean to be wealthy inside yourself such that you can tackle whatever it is you want to do outside yourself. And I think that's such a powerful place to look from.
At 69 years old today, what is that definition for yourself?
Of wealth?
Mm-hmm.
That's a deep question.
Mm-hmm.
I really think it's the ability to look deeply and to then understand what you're seeing and using it to grow, because it enhances and improves everything that I do.
Mm-hmm.
It allows me to show up more fully. It allows me to get over fear and shame. And I've had lots of opportunities recently to expand my fear and shame horizon. And I can share that if you're interested in, but being able to look at it deeply and understanding what drives it and how it's just an experience. So getting deeper to the roots of what drives those experiences for me such that I can actually master them and go back out in the world even stronger and more assured.
Yeah.
And to me, that's living a wealthy life. Definitely living a wealthy life.
Yeah. And my God, you have built major companies and many, I would say most in male dominated industries. So you've built companies in industries where very few women have had a seat at the table, a seat even. You have been the leader in many of those ventures for your life. What did it take internally and externally to claim the space that you weren't even necessarily invited into?
It's my entire career has been in construction and development, in real estate, which is all male dominated, completely male dominated. In fact, I think for the first 20 years of my career, I was the only woman in the room ever. And it really, at first, I was really intimidated. And I think that's where I found the strength to be able to speak up. And I found the strength to be my own voice. It's very easy, or I think it would have been very easy to have emulated the men and the way that they communicated, but it never felt authentic to me
What didn't feel authentic about it to you?
because it was driving. It was very to the point, and I always saw more than just the one thing that was in front of us
Mhm.
to accomplish. I always was looking to the future of how I wanted the team to come together or the project to come together. And if I had taken on the voice of the men as the example, and I've had a 42-year career, so I was in my late 20s when I started in construction and development. And so I was often the youngest person in the room as well.
Mhm.
It would have been easy to have become kind of hardened, but I didn't want to be that person. It would have made my career easier. Uh,
Hmm.
and I've learned through time how to balance, how to have a voice, how to be heard, how to do it in a way so I can be heard. And
Yeah.
I still battle this. This has not changed in my observation. I'm in the middle of developing a large hotel project, and though there are more women on the team, it's still hard to be heard, um,
Yeah.
which is amazing to me. And it's hard to be heard by men who claim that they're up for women being equal,
Yeah.
and they're just blind to how they move our opinions, how they're not important to listen to.
Yeah.
So I try to maintain my voice, which is looking at how does everybody in the room win? How do I have the future that I'm looking forward to? Not how do I just get this one thing done? So,
Yeah. It's less linear.
very much so, very much so.
Hmm. I found a way in working with successful men, and I hope my team chooses this clip for social media because I think it's so true and it's still pervasive in any industry, any male dominated industry, is that men in a lot of ways have to think that it's their idea first.
That is so true.
Hmm.
And there's a skill in learning to do that. For me, there's no ego in winning.
No.
Like, if you want to get the result you're going for, let other people think it's theirs.
Yeah.
Learn how to make it such that people buy in as if it was their idea. That is a powerful, powerful skill. And one that requires developing, obviously, but easy to do. And if you can let go, I look back on my career and see how when I didn't let go of my ego and wanting to have show up as that it was my idea or my win, how
Yeah.
many of those things failed. And if I hadn't, how many much more so they would have, I think, gone forward. So that's one of the many lessons I've obviously had. I don't have any, as they say, skin in the game for making it be about me.
I love that so much. I think that that speaks volumes to the woman that you are and to the leader that you are, and exactly what this world needs to embrace more of is because a win win does not have ego attached to it.
Never,
Hmm.
never. It's hard to remember that. We're not taught that. It's hard to remember that in the
Yeah.
moment. And that's why, when we started our conversation, I was saying I spend a lot of time on the internal process, internal understanding what my motivation is, how it's getting in the way of me really having what I want,
Hmm.
what I'm trying to achieve.
Hmm.
Um, because I'm usually the only barrier is yourself.
Right.
I don't believe the barriers are out there. So
Not anymore, specifically for women in America. Women, I've had just had a recent episode talking about the history of women, and there aren't laws that get in our way anymore. That used to be the case. There are still cultural norms that get in the way, but still, that's on us to own. I think you were one of the first female scuba divers, correct?
A deep sea diver.
Deep sea diver.
Sea diver. Yeah, I
No.
think very early when I was very young, I left university. I ended up going back and getting a degree, but I left university, wanted to explore more. And I was very young when I graduated high school because I left school early. I graduated early.
Uh-huh.
So I went off to Seattle, Washington, and became a deep sea diver and learned how to install oil rigs and do underwater welding and cutting. It was quite an adventure. Talk
That's
about
so
being an
cool.
only woman in the room.
I mean, over and over and over again, and that's what it takes, and that's why you're on the show, and we're speaking into women in the community, in my real money community, who are trailblazing in their own lives. And so let's shift it. You've grown companies from 0 to 80 million in a very short amount of time. You've created personal wealth. You have kids. You've raised kids.
Yes.
You were married for 42 years. You've gone through a divorce.
In the midst of going through that divorce right now, actually, the last year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, it's, you look back at your life and you realize all the things you've accomplished. Going through a divorce is quite an eye-opening experience because your whole landscape changes. What I've discovered for myself is that I feel like I'm in the prime of what my whole life has been leading up
Mm.
to. The knowledge, the wisdom, the freedom. There's scary moments in there, being on your own, trying to recreate a life that's just you
Mm-hmm.
is I am responsible financially in the divorce. So what that looks like. I was not raised, you've mentioned my age. I wasn't raised to think that that would be my role.
Mm-hmm.
So that's new, you know, figuring out what that looks like, how to be fair about it, how to not be afraid that I can't do it,
Mm-hmm.
um, those kinds of things. So,
Same fears as everyone else.
but in your own little world, you don't realize that.
Yeah, you don't. Well, here's the thing, Lori, having been around and in the money industry for my short amount of time, which is 10 years compared to yours, is that there are a lot of assumptions that are made about men and women who quote unquote have money. And by all definitions, looking at your Vita, looking at everything you've accomplished, we could say you're a wealthy woman, yes?
Yes. Yes.
And that somehow society puts wealthy people in this box as if you don't have the same problems, you don't have the same challenges just because you have money. So to hear you say that you're navigating the same challenge a woman who by her own definition may not have wealth is still learning how to navigate. That's the experience I went through in my divorce. I was financially responsible. I was making much less money than you make, but I was still tasked with figuring out how to live my life on my own.
Hmm.
And there was so much conditioning inside of me that said, this isn't your job.
Hmm.
And I just heard you say that's the same thing that you are going through.
Absolutely. I don't, wealth is so defined as money.
Hmm.
And so we evaluate, like, if you have money, suddenly your problems disappear, the internal challenges disappear, the growth that you want for yourself disappear because
Yeah.
suddenly that is so not true. So not true. My experience is we as women are all challenged by the same things, raising our children, what that means, how to, you know, I have adult children. I have a 40-year-old daughter. I'm still helping her navigate life.
Hmm.
So um, I don't think those issues or problems or challenges or none of them disappear.
No.
Money just means you can buy a few more things,
Yeah.
but it doesn't. And maybe if you have a desire, you can execute it more quickly.
Hmm.
But it doesn't change how you deal with everyday life, your relationships with your children, your relationships with your spouse, if you have one, your parents, your friends,
Hmm.
in business. I mean, I'm still actively working. I still have multiple projects that I'm pursuing. The same challenges as if you were holding a job,
Right.
they're the same. I
Right.
don't think they disappear.
No, the human experience is just that. Let's talk about failure because I know that your path to success has not been 100% linear. There have been a lot of redirections, a lot
Yes.
of course corrections. There have been failures. The one that you were so candid with me about when I met with you in Dallas, and actually before that, was that you had been involved in a Ponzi scheme.
Yes.
And this is women's some of our biggest fears is that we're going to get it wrong, we're going to make mistakes, and that we're not going to be able to bounce back from it. So can you help us understand what happened, what choices you made, and then ultimately how you were able to shift from that? Because I know you said there's a lot of shame and guilt that came with that.
Yes. Well, first, let me start at the beginning.
Yeah.
So it was an investment where I a friend brought it to me. Number one, I a friend brought it to me. It must
Mm-hmm.
be okay. They said they knew this person a long time. It put my guard down a little, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Um, then I went to dinner with the individual. I flew to New York to meet him because I thought that was good to do, and I was invited to do so. And at the dinner, his values and my values about family totally did not line up.
Mm.
But the return and the advice of my friend, or the push of my friend that it was a great investment and he'd been getting these great returns, I really didn't pursue the due diligence that I would normally have done in an
Mm-hmm.
investment. And over the first couple of years, I got the return. And as a result, I continued to invest more and more, and to the tune of, then I got my daughter involved. So the two of us together were about several $1 million invested. And
Mm.
then one day it all stopped. And I flew to New York. I'm also building a big hotel and residential project here in Palm Springs. And I was flying to New York for business in regards to that. And a text came over my phone that the gentleman I'd invested with had just been arraigned on a $43 million Ponzi scheme.
Mm-hmm.
And you can imagine, first of all, I'd gotten my daughter involved. Also, my sister had gotten involved. So all three of us now had lost our money. And it was a life-changing event financially for me, because it was a large part of
Mm-hmm.
what I could have retired on if I had intended to retire. But also the shame, the guilt, having gotten other people involved, the shame of not following my own set of rules about how to invest and how to do my due diligence, the fear that I couldn't bounce back from that. What was I going to do? How was I going to do that?
Mm-hmm.
All of that just kind of flooded
Rushed
in.
in.
And I had to spend some time really contemplating and looking out. I actually did a lot of reading, and what I went through is not uncommon.
Yeah. In what way is it not uncommon?
People, first of all, investing has risk and you can always lose your money. A Ponzi scheme sounds like it's worse than losing your money on an investment that just goes bad, because it
Yeah.
sounds like somebody scammed you, right? So maybe that other level of scamming um, makes you feel worse in some way than
Sure.
an investment that you just lose money. But in the end, all it was a bad investment.
Mm.
Nothing more, nothing less. And
Yeah.
not all investments are great investments. Some
No.
investments don't work out. I think coming to terms with that and taking off all the layers of society that says, oh my God, you were scammed. How could you be so silly to have gotten into that? I was asked that question by a financial advisor, and I was like, wait a minute, look at the number of billionaires that got scammed by Bernie Madoff. This
Yeah.
isn't a function of my intelligence or who I am as a human being. I made a bad investment. I made a bad decision about an investment. I didn't follow my own rules
Hmm.
about becoming more informed or trusting my intuition. I would not normally have invested with somebody who has a different set of values than I do,
That's a great
but I
point.
did. And I looked at it and I got clear. I was greedy. I looked at that return and it blinded me to all the other things that were the indicators that take a step back, be a
Yep.
little bit more hesitant. And greed, I got to deal with my own level of where is my greed,
Mm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not bad. To me, it was a valuable lesson to
Yeah.
get over the shame. Like, this was just a bad decision. How am I going to improve in my next round of investing? Because I'm not going to give up investing, because to build financial wealth requires you to do more than put your money in the mattress. Um, and I'm not going to be fearful about making another bad decision, because that's the risk in investing. What I
Yeah.
need to be more clear about is the levels of risk that I'm willing to take and understanding that risk.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to look at my own greed.
Yeah. Those darker, those shadowy parts of us are they are such a great teacher for us.
Absolutely.
And I honor that you had the courage to share that.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, and I think that if we want to say we don't have greed, we're lying to
Hmm.
ourselves.
Hmm.
Mine was a little bit bigger than most, maybe at that moment, but I was enticed by the return and the thought that what it could give me and
Sure.
whatever, and it blinded me to the fact that it was possibly too good to be true.
Mm. There's a distinction in shame versus guilt that Brene Brown shares. I write about it in my new book. Brene Brown's the foremost expert on shame. And the distinction is that shame is the belief that you are bad, and guilt is the distinction that you've done something bad.
Uh-huh.
And in our financial decisions, it's so easy to judge other people for the decisions that they've made. And ultimately, isn't it true that we're the ones that are judging ourselves the most?
Well, and my observation in that is that if you're judging someone else, then you need to look inside because that trait exists in you. I
Yep.
really have found that. If somebody does something and I'm unbothered by it, it's probably because I've dealt with it already and got clear
Mm,
about it. And I use that as a barometer. I always say to my kids, if somebody shares something with you about you and it hurts, pay attention.
mm-hmm.
Pay attention
Yep.
because it means it's something you need to look at and you're hiding from in yourself. And understanding it, overcoming it, handling it, coming to to include it, whatever the right words are, only grows who you are. Only
Yeah.
allows more space for the greatness of others in your life, which I'm a believer in. Like to have a really great life is to have really great people in your life.
Agreed.
And to do that is to really look at yourself.
I
And
agree.
there's so much shame and guilt and judgment around money
Oh, yeah.
that this is a great area. I think it's worse than sex. I think sex has become
Oh, totally.
a common issue. Like you can talk about that all day long. Money, oh my gosh, stay away from it. So
Yep.
I respect that you're out there talking about it because it's something that brings up a lot of things for us
Agreed.
around shame and guilt and also not being good enough. And
Agreed. Yeah, and it speaks to, and so I have a couple of things I want to make sure that we full circle on this. And what you're speaking into speaks to how, as a consciousness of women, we have room to grow. That there is still room for us to grow because I have women that come to me in private. I work with very successful women, very successful men who come to me with these secrets. Many of them have secrets of making a bad investment, and they're riddled with guilt and shame because it's, what does this mean about me? Right? People aren't going to trust me. I'm going to lose respect of others. I am going to be shamed, or people are going to say I told you so, whatever that is. I'm dumb. A huge belief that women have is I'm stupid. How could I be so stupid? So we take these risks, and rather than learning from them, we continue the perpetuation of shame and guilt,
yes,
and we let it drive us deeper and deeper and deeper in that way. What can someone learn from you? How did you navigate through that? How did you heal from it?
I keep talking about looking inside.
Yeah.
That is the strength that we have as women
Hmm.
is to know we have the strength to be able to actually come up against all these challenges. We have the strength because I believe, women, because it's built into who we are. I don't want to say that because we have children, but it's a skill we learn actually maybe with children, but I think it's an intuitive, innate skill of women to get out of your brain and get more into your soul or your heart
Mm-hmm.
and to have that same compassion for yourself and to know that by having that compassion and understanding how you're feeling and why you grow
Mm-hmm.
and it allows you to expand
Mm-hmm.
and to have more.
Yeah.
Does that answer for
I think
you?
so.
Yeah,
I
there's
think so.
such a power in being self-reflective
Yep.
and not and over and seeing the drivers of shame and knowing that that is not you. Like you do
Yep.
not have to identify with these words. They are only feelings. They
That's
are
right.
not realities.
It's not who
And
you are.
it's not who you are. Who you are is somebody who can look at those things and say, no, I'm going to grow from that. Nope, I'm
Yeah.
not going to let that get in my way. And I'm still dealing with that. I still am timid. And the reason I share so willingly is because I want to get over the timidity that shame can bring with it or that
That's
guilt
right.
can bring with it. And I don't want to be timid about who I am or be embarrassed about the things that have happened in my life. They have made me who I am.
Correct.
And I want to honor that.
Yeah.
And not all of it's pretty, so
No, not for any one of us are they pretty.
yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I know that that's going to make a difference for someone listening to this in this moment. I think it's so important. So look within, have compassion for yourself, realize that you are not your choices. And then what I heard you say at the front end of that is that if you are going to invest money, you are going to risk losing it, no matter what the investment is.
No matter what. You
Yep.
just need to know that. And
Yep.
that does not speak to you as having made a bad decision. It doesn't speak to your intelligence, your ability to be a good investor, any of that. It's
Yep.
just some investments do not work out.
They don't. They don't. Okay, so let's talk about your formula for investing. So you didn't follow, first and foremost, you didn't follow your intuition about the person that you were in connection with. You didn't have the same values, and that's huge. So first of all, know what your values are
Yes.
and align with people who share your values.
Yes. And values are broader than just the things that first come to mind. Honesty, integrity, you know, values
Mhm.
are like deeper, like how you treat people, um, what are the value around your family? What's your value about society? You want to look
Mhm.
at those broader values. So I think values are very important. I think a gut is very important.
Yeah.
Pay attention.
Yep.
Um, and that's independent from values because they may align with your values, but you just don't have a good feeling. And an investment is a two-way street. You're not just giving them money. They need to have a certain level of respect for you as the investor.
Yep.
And so you make sure that you have that. I think
Yep.
very, very important. And then doing due diligence. If you're investing in something you don't know, do a little bit of reading. Learn as much as you can that makes you feel comfortable that you can ask the right questions. And
Mhm.
I tell women who I do talk with, there is no question that shouldn't be asked.
Yep.
Women stop short of asking the questions that they think might be stupid. Forget it. There's nothing stupid about a question.
Right.
Very,
Right.
very important. That's how you get the answers you need. And
That's
be
right.
willing to walk away from an investment if it isn't right. There will be many, many more. And I have spoken with many women who think, oh my gosh, if I don't do this, what else will come my way? Trust me, once you start making investments just come your way. So,
Totally. I love that. I'm so glad you said that, is that it don't fall into the trap of scarcity or fear.
right,
The fear of missing out in investing is where you stop paying attention to your own intuition, where you stop doing your due diligence. And people, let's just be honest, there's a lot of people out there that want to sell you these great opportunities because they need your money.
right,
So
right.
slow it down.
Slow it down. Absolutely. There will
Yeah.
always be another investment to be made.
Especially for women.
Totally. Well,
Especially.
our friends our friends have investments. Our friends are making investments. There's all kinds of ways to find investments out there to do.
Yeah.
And if you want to do it in a traditional way, there are great investment advisors out there that you can work with. So
Agreed. Agreed. Okay, Lauri, how did you get into the rooms? Because for women right now, for a lot of women, they might feel that that's their roadblock. Also, our own conversations of I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy to step into those rooms, to get at the table. How are you able to do that?
well, let's start with not worthy.
Okay.
Again, this goes back to what I've been mentioning and what we've talked about earlier. You are worthy. First, you have to get inside. You are worthy, and look for what makes you worthy.
Yeah.
It's not the same for every person. You're worthy because you're interested. You're worthy because you're curious. You're worthy because you know something about the industry. I mean, there's lots of things that get you there. So
Uh-huh.
know that you're worthy. It's pushing. It's just moving, looking and asking. Again, uh, no questions stupid. No question is not worth asking.
Right.
No request to be included isn't worth requesting. I've just asked.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be somewhere. I include myself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't ask for the invitation. And I look to where I can make value because I know that if I'm going to put myself somewhere where I'm not invited, I need to definitely make a contribution. You need to make a contribution even if you're invited, but even more importantly, know why you want to be there and what you can add to it so that you can be there.
I love
I
that.
I think that's a very important thing to remember.
I agree. What about commercial real estate do you love? And why do you think more women should get into commercial real estate?
I love it because it's creative.
Hmm.
I love it because it uses all my skills. So I've done from ground up construction. So
Hmm.
that's finding the property, entitling the property, designing the property, bringing the investors together, and then building it. I love that creative process. For me, that's like art. I'm not a lover of execution so much.
Hmm.
Once something's operational, that's not my forte.
Uh-huh.
But the creativity of bringing all the pieces together, having an idea, and then bringing it into fruition, I love that process.
Hmm.
And I think that women are creative. Um, I think it's a use of a multiple of skills that many women have, more than just one skill. So if you're interested in real estate offers an opportunity to be creative
I
and
love
to
that.
put all those skills into play. In commercial real estate, understanding the difference between building and real estate and being the operational side of real estate. So many people do multifamily. Are you really the developer and builder, or are you doing multifamily where you end up managing an operational business?
Hmm.
Making that distinction is important as to where you want to be. I'm not big on the operational side. That's not where I would rather be invested. I'm the
Yeah.
developer.
I think I would rather be in developing too. It sounds way more fun.
Way more fun and a
Build
lot
it and move on.
That's right, exactly. Exactly. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
You're not dealing with an operational business where you have people calling because their sink isn't working
Right.
or whatever, kind of thing. So
Right.
making that distinction, I think, is important.
What do you believe are the most unique opportunities for women in real estate right now?
Well, I think right now, all the women I come in contact with are involved in primarily residential type real estate. So
Okay.
a lot of the women meet are doing fix and flips or investing in multifamily.
Yep.
Um, I think that's because it's what is available to them. I would broaden the horizons to look into other areas. For example, commercial, which could include storage, which
Hmm.
is kind of had its heyday, but it is an area. It could include strip centers or community centers, which are unanchored shopping malls, which are very, very good investments currently. So there are other areas. Office buildings currently are not the top of the market. COVID
No,
really
not after COVID, right?
that's really changed that market. There are dozens of subcategories within real estate, industrial, then you can break that down. There's single tenant occupancy, like a Starbucks or, where you have a single tenant. So there are other areas to look into. It depends on what your objectives are for your investment. Some are purely cash flow.
Hmm.
Some are development opportunities where, you're going to look to sell it after improving it. So value add opportunities. So there's opportunistic investing, which is more possible in commercial real estate. But if you're doing multifamily, understanding what your role is in the multifamily,
Yep.
fix flips as well. Even though people call them investments, many of them really, it's really it's not an investment. It's considered income, like it's
Correct.
business. So you're making that distinction and understanding what your objectives are as you choose which investment area that you get into, because whether you want to be treated as a W-2, if you will,
Yep.
versus capital gains in some way. So
Yeah. There are different, so all that to say is that there are different meanings attached to the way that you invest,
yes,
which will translate into cash flow or tax advantages or not over time. And let's be honest, fix and flips and multifamily have been sold to us
yes,
in the masses now. Grant Cardone, thank you for, for championing that conversation. And it's been so accessible, taught just like the stock market. And there gets to be a new conversation about other ways for women to build wealth through real estate. Those aren't the only two ways.
yes. And they have their risk in them. You
Yep.
know, there's a lot that goes into a fix and flip, and then understanding the taxation on a fix and flip and what could go wrong. I mean, I've been in development my whole life, so doing a restoration on a house has its risks. It's
Sure
not
does.
clear cut, and it's an area where there are many women I talk to that they don't make nearly the amount of money they should for the effort that goes into it.
Right.
So, going back to that, every investment has a risk. It's important to understand even that, even though it seems accessible, has its risks
Hmm.
and takes a
Great
lot of
point.
time and energy. So,
Such a great point.
yeah.
Okay, so you've said that self-discovery is the most profitable investment a woman can make. What does that look like in practice? And how has it transformed your definition of wealth? So we started the conversation this we're gonna land the plane here.
Okay. Self discovery. Well, the way I do it is I actually have a teacher
Hmm.
and I study. So I make a committed effort on a weekly basis to be in a conversation where I'm completely honest with my teacher. You could call her a coach, though I see her as a teacher.
Sure.
Um, I happen to come from a particular bent in that teaching where I choose to be as honest as I can let myself. And over the years, and she's been my teacher for 16 or 17 years, the level of honesty that I've been able to achieve with her has expanded over time.
Hmm.
It's not easy to be really honest about what drives you, what you're thinking, admitting to things that embarrass you about
Hmm.
you. So to me, that's where self-discovery is really, really going deeper into understanding who I am. And I have found that what it does is it makes me more and more authentic in the world. And my authenticity is the magnet for opportunity, in my opinion. It's what brings people to you. Um, in all areas, because you become more and more trustworthy the more authentic you are, and the more you know yourself, you're just able to present yourself in a much better light, I guess,
Yeah.
more authentically you.
Yeah.
So, to me, self discovery is the key to wealth in life.
I agree. I agree. So I like to call birth years a point. So I'm version 4.5 of myself because I'm 45. You are version 6.8 of yourself going into 6.9. What are the parts of you that you're getting to know and learning right now in this stage of your life?
Oh, wow, that is a great question. I think there's a part of me that seems to be awakening or rebirthing,
Mm,
which is the excitement to explore things that I've put aside for raising a family and building financial wealth, and it's interesting that I'm learning that it's not attached for me to the things that I own. It's
mm,
more attached to adventure. So I feel like I'm entering the adventuresome part of my life, if I will,
I love
but
that.
also where, like, this conversation allows me, it's an adventure to reveal more of myself publicly and to be of value in that, out of that activity.
Hmm.
And however that might manifest itself, whether it's out at dinner or on a podcast or, at a coffee shop where I take up a conversation with another stranger, those kinds of things. So I think that
Yeah.
would be more me. And of course, 6.9 also has this whole new level of singleness because I'm by myself. So discovering what that is and finding out who that is, to be honest, I don't even know who she is yet.
Yeah.
Totally.
That's honest.
So,
That's honest. I so appreciate that. And you're not alone.
no, I think there's so many fabulous women out there in the same exact place,
Agreed.
So,
Yeah. What an adventure
yeah,
and what a gift and opportunity to explore life in this new chapter of your life, having accomplished everything that you've accomplished. I'm so grateful that you had the courage to share what you shared today and to show up exactly as you are where you are in life. Success can be a shield and it can be a great mask for people to just talk about success. And when I started my podcast, Lori, I was committed to have underneath the surface conversations because that's where life is lived.
absolutely. Absolutely. I think the wealth, the warmth, the expansiveness, The moments of joy that you can feel, they're just fleeting.
Hmm.
But when you're so in the present of who you are, is a really joyous experience.
Yeah, I
It's
agree.
it's a lifelong, I think, journey to get there. So
I agree. So here's what we've learned from Lauri today, and then I have some fun questions to end the show with. That life starts whenever you decide it starts. And it's not about where it ends, it's about how it keeps going and how you keep growing. And that true wealth, we can say, is defined by joy and the micro moments of being present and doing the inner work to discover who you are and what matters to you. And so let's all join Lauri in this conversation. Share with us what you learned in today's podcast episode. Tell us what you want to hear more about. And Lauri, I've got some fun rapid fire questions for you. You ready?
I'm going to try.
Okay, all right. Uh, DIY or hire it out?
Hire it out.
West Coast vibes or Southern roots?
West Coast vibes.
Risk or security?
Risk.
Morning pages or spreadsheets?
Whoa, I do both.
Ah. Okay, dream retreat, beach, forest, or desert?
Beach.
Book smarts or street smarts?
Street smarts.
Legacy or lifestyle?
Legacy.
Hustle or harmony?
Harmony.
Live to work or work to live?
Work to live.
Confidence or curiosity?
Both.
One book that changed your life?
Oh my gosh, this is an area I cannot help you because I read books and I don't remember the titles or the author.
One author, one author.
One author. Well, oh no.
Lisa Chastain. Say Lisa Chastain.
He's fabulous. I'm going to read your books. I'm inspired by this podcast by you. I love it.
Thank you. My new book, Shameless Plug, comes out June 24th, and I'll send you a signed copy.
Please do. I would
I
love to
will.
read it.
I will. Okay, Lauri, what is one last thing that you want to leave our listeners today?
Trust who you are. Trust who you will become.
Trust who you are. Trust who you become. I love that. Thank you for joining me on Real Money today.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. Thank you so much for a great conversation.
What an incredible episode with Lauri Kibby. We learned about authenticity, the journey within, and how to build true wealth. DM me real on Instagram or right here in the show notes, and I'm going to send you my money mirror exercise. It's the first step to getting clear about your numbers so that you can build wealth, and I will see you on the other side. Thanks for joining us on Real Money today. Catch you next time. Thanks for listening to Real Money. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to help support the podcast, please subscribe and let us know what you love about the show. Your feedback is invaluable as we continue to empower women to take control of their financial lives. Until next time, keep thriving and remember, you deserve real money.